I think it's about DNA. Like the
Yeah, come on.
pandemic was interesting because doing things online opened up this digital window into our world at V1
Yeah.
Church. And then people with our same DNA are like, man, we're radical in worship and we love the scriptures. And it's just, we started finding our tribe, so to speak, globally. And we kind of we went from like a 3 location New York City church to homes all around the world. And
Oh, fun.
we're still incubating that. We're getting better. And then this summer, we're doing a huge global tour to physically meet everybody in person that really joined our family through the pandemic. So it's
That's
crazy.
awesome. That is incredible. And like just continued growth. I mean, have you read through, I'm sure, the connectivity of like the Francis Chan perspective of the home church?
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear like your perspective on how that's continuing to be fostered through your vision.
Yeah, I'm going to be with Francis Chan this weekend, actually,
Awesome.
which
Oh,
is
how
crazy.
ironic.
Yeah, and I think some of that stuff initially was a response of like binging on mega church culture.
Yes.
Because when you're in that context, the politics and everything that's involved with it it can be so overwhelming. But I do think that a lot of what Francis said has value.
Yeah.
And so what we really did as a church is we embraced, instead of it being an either or, it's a both and.
Yeah.
And so people need a pastor, people need a local church, but what does that look like? And really the most convicting story was there was a young girl in her 20s that lived in this remote part of Kentucky. And she was like, she reached out to us and she said, we have one of those like snake handling crazy churches. And like, that's the closest church to me
Oh
geographically.
my gosh.
And she was like, obviously that's not what I feel called to. And so that for me was the realization for the very first time, there are people that you can't say that there's a good local church.
Right.
And
True.
so if there is one, we try to send people to like a traditional brick and mortar local church. But then like for her story, her name's Mariah. We're like, Mariah, I don't think you should go to the snake handling
Yeah,
church.
let's avoid that.
Yeah. So we're here for you digitally. And then when you can meet with us physically,
Yeah.
whenever we have events regionally or whatever. So we're just on this like crazy
It's
journey to figure out what we
awesome.
are.
And I think about like your background in entrepreneurship, because this podcast is all about like founders, innovators, and trailblazers who are faith founded, who love Jesus, but they might be operating in the marketplace or they
Yeah.
might be operating as ministers. And you're doing, it sounds like a little bit of both. And I even was perusing your website, and you have a really rad event that I am hopeful that I can attend with entrepreneurs coming up, called the #1 Kingdom Entrepreneur event, the Kingdom Global Impact. And so talk to me about what was your history and what does that look like as you're now pastoring?
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Well, I was raised by a single mom with 5 kids on welfare.
Wow.
And I think when you're raised in that environment, it has the potential to pull the greatness out of you because eventually you realize no one's coming to save you.
Mm,
Like that, you've got to figure this out. And
yeah.
and so when I combined the idea of Christ did come to save me, and
Mhm.
so it's not by my own works, but it's rather through His grace, and with the idea that I've got to chart my own path.
Right.
Like that, those two ideas, like marrying those together. And I think there are a lot of entrepreneurial believers that are waking up to their destiny right now.
Yeah, so
And
much.
I'm super excited about that because for me, it was like, okay, Christ empowers me and I've got to go on this journey. But then He also gave me my own will, which means that we're going to co-labor, we're going to co-create. And I think old school Christianity was like, no, God's going to do it all. Right. And then secular humanism is I'm going to do it all.
Yes, come
But then
on.
really the real gospel is I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And that's the fun part. And to me, hopefully somebody listening to this right now is like, yes, your spirit's bearing witness. So I have a friend named Paul. Paul has over a million followers on Instagram. He's worked with Gary Vaynerchuk. He's worked with Grant Cardone, Ty Lopez. He was actually the guy who had the idea for Ty Lopez that jumped off his career.
Nice.
And he's also a hardcore Christian. He's a believer and a
Mhm.
multi-site pastor.
Nice.
So Paul and I have been working together for years. And he was like, I've never really done anything explicitly in the Christian community. And so for me, I'm mainly in the Christian community, and the businesses that I run, I kind of run them like silently behind the scenes. And so I was like, what if I step into your world and you step into mine and we just do this event? So yeah, actually May 28th on Long Island, we're doing this event. And it's not actually just on Long Island, it's digitally as well. So
Okay.
I'll have to, you could be my guest. I'll send you some
Yeah.
info.
Send me some
Um,
info. Is that the weekend of Memorial Day weekend or after?
yeah, it is.
Is it of? So I'm speaking at a podcasting event, ironically, in
Nice.
Orlando. But if I am able to be on, I want to be on virtually too. But for some reason, I feel like it's the weekend after. Is it not?
May
Regardless,
28th.
I know
Yeah,
it
let me.
won't be the last time. It is. It's Saturday the 28th. You're right. Yep, I'll be in Orlando, but I want to you to know that like vision and what's actually transpiring in the entrepreneurial realm is what I'm seeing, and how I get to show up every single day is the recognition that there's like this revival in the marketplace happening where
Yeah,
people are recognizing like, hold on, there's not enough time for me to just live life on this rat race, and I want to live on purpose, and I want to live with vision, and I want to blend my faith into my workplace. And whether
yeah,
they're the leader or they're the leader from a faith lens, I think that there is such an empowering perspective that the church could take right now in order to support and serve these visionaries.
yeah,
And
and
I
what?
think
Yeah.
doing it through the church or through entrepreneurship, it's yes, and it's both.
Absolutely. Well, what I've realized is that we've preached so hard against the prosperity gospel that
Yes.
we've made people feel guilty for prospering.
Making money.
And
I
it's like, yeah,
know.
it's like we've made, and so for me coming from poverty, it's like I also don't see a poverty gospel.
Right.
So it's like, and so I always try to tell people we're called to be a river and not a reservoir. So it's
Yes.
like the financial resources flow through kingdom people, and there's nothing wrong with being successful by anyone's metrics. Matter of fact, it's like I believe there's a restoration of like Daniel's, people
Yes.
that carry influence outside of just the church world. And for me coming to New York City, there's that phrase, if you can make it in New York City, you can make it anywhere. And
Yeah.
that's true.
Yes.
And people didn't want just a pastor. They wanted somebody that they felt like he doesn't have to pastor. He could do anything, but God's called him to pastor. And there's like, for example, I started this company called EIS,
Mhm.
and it's emotionally intelligent solutions. And I had a vision for providing really like high capacity leaders with counseling, because sometimes when you take like normal people through counseling, it's good, but you bring like a high capacity entrepreneurial person into a counseling environment and they're just like,
Yeah.
this is painful, like please, like talk faster,
Completely.
give me the point, like I
What's the
can't.
action item? I need to have my homework.
Exactly. Like, give me my list. So I was like, I want to provide that for people that's biblically
Awesome.
based. So, anyways, we did 1 million in revenue our first year. And I had
Incredible.
to expand our staff to 17 counselors. Of course, I did this through partnership with two other incredible entrepreneurs that we came together to make this. But my point is, the local church has limitations.
Right.
So as a pastor, I'm like, as our church was explosively growing, I'm like, I can't provide the kind of care I want to, but
Right.
through
To everyone.
entrepreneurship, I can.
Yes.